to be a fitness freak now, and that's going to make it all better, right? You just adopt whatever's going to work, right? I take action. That's where, like, my mantra to myself is I'm the action guy. I see something going on, I take action, because I don't like those things festering either. That mental health is so, so important. If your mental health is not under control, then how can you be super confident in your sobriety? Because you're only as strong in your sobriety as you are in your mental health.
Yeah, I agree. It's like when I've been to many rehabs, but we'd always like have a group about coping skills. And I don't know if you've listened to some of the podcasts, but I'm not a big fan of coping skills because, I mean, I already have a coping skill. It's called drinking. So I would rather, and I told a therapist this one time, I was like, look, I would rather just deal with the problem. You know, who do I talk to? What is the problem? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. You know, like I would rather take that approach than go, oh, I'm going to color today and this is going to be great. Because it's not going to work. I would rather go drink. If I'm going to cope, you know, if I'm just going to, like I said, leave it in the back of my head somewhere, then it's just not going to turn out very well. Because, like I said, the coping skill I know was to drink. And, I don't know. Some people would argue that with me. No, but and there's a difference for me between hobbies and coping skills. You know, hobby is something that I like. Fantasy football, I like to do that. It's fun. You know, there's making our shirts. I like to do that. It's kind of soothing. It's calming. It's like arts and crafts. I like to do that. It's a hobby of mine. But I don't like get pissed off at somebody and go, you know what? I'm making 10 shirts today and I'm not leaving here till I do, you know. Then that would become, I think, dangerous. And then next thing I know, I'd be drinking, making 217 recovery shirts, and that's just not very it's just not a very pretty sight, I don't think. I mean, I don't think anybody would want those shirts.
No, and you know, the thing, Corey, is I learned to use as a coping skill, right? So when I was 18, my son passed away when he was 4 months old, right? Imagine you're a kid and like you just get done with school and you're like learning this adult world that you just dropped into, and you're trying to deal with all these changes, kids, school, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, I come home from school to get the message that my son had passed away while I was at school, right? And I will never forget that night. My friend Ryan came over and we worked together. And he was like, I answered the door. He had a 6-pack of Bud Ice and half a joint. He was like, hey, smoke this, drink a couple of these. I think this will help you feel better. And by God, bro, it did. I felt way better in that moment than I did before that. But what did I do? Nothing. Got drunk, got high, didn't do anything about how I was feeling. But it worked in that moment. And so then that's when you're introduced to, oh, I can do this and this will help. And you continue to tell yourself that, like, that's the helper, right? You celebrate, let's get drunk. You are mad, let's get drunk. You're sad, let's get drunk. Like, come on, man. It ain't the one-stop shop for solutions. But you don't recognize that in the moment. You wish you did, and looking back, it's easy to see it, but in that moment, you don't. And so I developed this long history of that's how I dealt with everything. Is I'd catch a buzz. You know, I was a social guy, out with everybody, did the damn thing, right? But, like, I realized that I probably was the only one that had a problem. And you don't know that in the moment. You wish you did, right? It's funny now, Monday morning quarterback, I can tell you everything I was doing wrong. In that moment, I couldn't have told you anything that I was really doing wrong. And, you know, the change is tough, right? You know, to realize that's where the mental health, I realized that I used this device of getting messed up to help me with mental health related things. And the second I had that moment, I went, okay, so therapist, blah, blah, whatever we got to do. I'm of that mind. Whatever we got to do. I want to be peaceful in my mind. Peace of mind is something that's undervalued. And to get that peace of mind, for me, I saw what it would take to get there. And I just, you know, like I said, take action. And it's been life-changing, right? I even, you know, my mental health got to a point after I quit drinking where I started to think about drinking or just something. Didn't have to be drinking. Started to play the justifier machine. Well, maybe I can do something different. Maybe so-and-so's got some pills and, you know, maybe that'll work or something like that. And I went, whoa. That's not the approach. You know better. Been down this road before. And so I actually checked myself into an intensive outpatient mental health program where for a couple weeks I spent 6 hours a day in all these different groups and talking. And like with AA, I went in fully. I invested myself 100%. I participated in everything we did because I wanted to get every drop out of that sponge humanly possible while I was there, and then just simply try to continue those new tools and routines I had learned into my just general day-to-day life. And that was kind of that difference in my sobriety where I feel better as a person. I feel more confident as a person, more content with myself as a person. I'm better at forgiving myself for being a shitty human being for years. And it's just, it's whatever it took, right? And I'm proud now of where I am. I wish I had thought of these wonderful ideas a lot sooner, but I didn't. And so here we are now, right? What can we do now? I'm of that belief I can't do anything about a minute ago, but I can affect the next minute and the next day by just doing little things.
Yeah. And now I would like to say that I appreciate life more. I'm sure you do as well. And so, like, we had to go through, and I'm a firm believer, we had to go through things we had to be where we're at today. And obviously that's the way it kind of works. But, to really appreciate life now and the people that are in our lives, and we treat them night and day, is different. We treat them differently now, loved ones, than we did before. They were like using tools, like not like a needle or anything, but like, what can I get out of you to get the end result to me drinking alone at home? What do I need to just to tell you yes? Do I need to borrow money from you? Like, do I need to move your car, wash it? What do I need to do to get my end result? And now it's way different. It's like I cherish the time that I spend with family, and I don't feel like I'm using people for anything now, and it feels good.
Right.
Absolutely it does. Yeah. But now you were talking earlier about, earlier when we talked, we were not recording, but we were kind of chatting it up a little bit. You mentioned that you'd gotten, like, your story of leading to the rehabs and to realize, oh, okay, maybe I do have a problem, is you got a couple DUIs.
So I had DUIs. So this is the crazy thing. I had DUIs back home. This was before I had any idea I had a problem. This is when I still lived in our lovely hometown. And I have the gift of gab. I was able to get out of both of those DUIs with no punishment other than money. And what does an addict learn when all I got to do is give you money? Nothing. You go, man, I'm crafty. You brag to your friends, bro, you won't believe it. I talked my way out of probation. I talked my way out of classes. I told them, I sold them on how much I knew, bro. Like, they didn't even know. Now let's go get drunk, right? And you just like, God, right? And the thing for me is I always used, right? And alcohol was just along the way. I tried all these different drugs and then did all these different scenes with all these different people. And the only present, the ever present was alcohol all along the way. And it wasn't until I quit doing everything else that, like, I went, oh, yeah, I drink, right? But, man, when I moved here to Lansing and East Lansing, I was 25. I'm in a college town with 50,000 college students, and we're just living it, right? And I didn't expect that, and I didn't bargain for that life. And I happened to meet somebody who was extremely well-known everywhere we went. And so, like, dude, it was the life, right? And then one day, I had quit drinking for a while just because, like, my health wasn't phenomenal, and I quit drinking for a year. And I was like, all right, good. And then one day I'd had the justifier on, right? I turned my trusty justifier on, dialed her in for some justification messages, and headed my ass down to the liquor store and picked me up a little half pint. Corey, it's just a half pint. What's it going to do to you?
Yeah,
nothing. But then tomorrow I got another one. And then the next day I got another one. And then a couple weeks later, well, that half pint isn't getting it. Guess I got to get a pint. And it just grows, right? If you feed the animal will eat, right? And alcoholics are like heroin addicts in that you have this trait within you from using that gives you this craving to use endlessly, right? No matter how much, give me more. Do you need more? No. Do you want more? Sure. And it's just it's so innocent how it starts. And before you know, you got a problem on your hands. And it might not affect anything. But, I had family push away from me. I pushed people away. And all of a sudden it occurred to me that, like, none of my friends wanted to be around me anymore. And I was spending most of my time drinking alone. And I was spending a lot of time having arguments with people. Why? Because I was miserable with myself. And I was already destroying myself, and that apparently wasn't sufficient enough. So I decided to drop some family bombs here, there, and everywhere, too. And I think I mentioned this when we were talking before, right? What's the worst walk of shame? It isn't the car walking looking like a disheveled mess. It's picking up your damn cell phone and looking at what trouble you got yourself in with who and what arguments you had, and you don't remember it, and you're just like, oh, my God. And so you go get drunk, right, because you feel like such a miserable person. Like, man, buddy, that's where I think about that mental health part. And I just knew the whole way that just not drinking wasn't going to be it, that I had to feel better about myself. My therapist says this saying to me, right, you have to learn to look at trust as a skill when talking about yourself. Develop the skill of trust in yourself. And I have always thought that was profound, right? I never thought of trust as a skill. And now I do. And so I figure out, how can I be kinder to myself, right? Little things. How do I talk to myself? When I make a mistake, do I go, oh, you stupid ass, God, you're so dumb? Or do I say, well, I had a human moment. I watched a TED Talk, and the lady was like, I used to beat myself up. Now when I make a mistake, I say, oops, guess I had a human moment. I thought, that's cool. I like that. I bet you that's helpful. And you know what? It is helpful. And sometimes I still slaughter myself, but I try to recognize it and stop myself and be like, hey, talk to yourself like you're talking to one of your friends.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I don't think I beat myself up over that, but that's something to be mindful of, though. If you're like, oh yeah. Pretty sure I'm sure I have, but that's something that is, because nobody likes to be wrong, and especially when you have to admit it to yourself that you're wrong. And there's so many people out there that were just like us, that are just like us right now. They're on the same path, and their families are telling them, little Johnny, I think you have a problem. No, I don't. And that's how that's how I was. I don't have a problem. Oh, if you think I have a problem, then fine. I'm not going to talk to you, and I'm going to go drink. Mm-hmm. And I'll show you I don't have a problem. And then it got to a point where I didn't know what to do. And I think you had a little clearer path, or not a clearer path. I think you just knew a little bit sooner, like, no, this isn't what I'm doing. And yeah, you might have had a slip here or there, because I think we all kind of have those. But it was part of your journey. And then for you to jump all in the mental health, man, I commend you. That's huge. For me, I was like, no, that means I'm crazy. At first, I didn't want anything to do with the mental health. Nope. I just have a drinking problem. I don't need to talk to nobody. I don't need nothing. And I wish somebody just would have grabbed me and just shook the shit out of me and said, no, dude, you do have a mental problem. Like, it's not like, we're not saying bad things about mental problems. We're just saying that there are feelings, there's stuff that's going on in our brain, that we don't know how to deal with. And especially when we mask it, and coping skills, alcohol or other drugs, we don't know what to do. And we become so used to that, our brain, like that's how it works. If you're thirsty, you pick up something to drink and you drink it. Well, when you have a problem, you and I would do is use drugs, and we would use alcohol, like, oh, let's do this. Yep. It becomes second nature, man. We don't even think about it anymore until we start shaking. Did you ever have the shakes?
So no, I am lucky in this way. I didn't get, and I actually recently learned that 20% of people are genetically unable to have hangover symptoms. And because I used to always say I never got hangovers. That's probably why I could always work. I never had hangovers. The worst I felt was a little dehydrated and tired. But like, I never got to the point of shakes, right? I checked myself into the rehab because I had read up on like what happens if you're shit-faced drunk and just stop drinking, right? And it's like, well, you can have seizures and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, just to be